Okay, we are live. Welcome to yet another installment of MSP Webinars. I'm Steve Taylor, your host. If you're watching this live, you may be here in Zoom with us, or you may be live watching it on YouTube. You may be watching this later on YouTube. If so, please like and subscribe. You can go to mspwebinars.com and check out future webinars that are scheduled. And you can also join to become a member of MSP Webinars there, where you get some fantastic benefits like discounts to products like Cloudberry, IT Boost, and other things like that, plus a monthly roundtable. So we're going to start with some ground rules. I went over some of this earlier, but I'm just going to kind of go over it again. Please use the Q&A section for questions and answers. So you ask questions and we provide answers, okay? If you want to just make a comment or general chat, you can do that in the chat section of Zoom. Since we have quite a few panelists today, if I see a question come in, I'm going to do my best to direct that question to the person that I think can best answer it. And then if other guys here have follow-up answers that they want to add, we got to figure out a way to do that without talking over one another, because I don't want general chaos. So for those of you that are panelists, do you have the ability to raise your hand on the software, not like this? Okay, I don't think you do. So feel free to just put a hand up or something, and I'll pay as best attention to you as I possibly can. I don't think we need any like slides or screen sharing for this. Today's webinar, this is going to be really focused on business process. Okay, so we're talking about the process of converting your clients that are currently break fix, they just call you as needed, converting those clients to managed services, to where they're giving you a monthly recurring revenue, because that's what being a managed service provider is all about, right? So Andy, I'm going to kind of let you take this, because you had a great approach as to what you think the three camps people that are watching this may be in.
Yeah. So effectively, I kind of broke it down. There's three camps. There's I've heard of what a managed service provider is. I'm not sure really exactly what it is, but I want to find out more information. Two, I've heard of it. I'm not sure if it fits my business process, and I'm not sure if I'll make or lose money by switching and going this route. And I'm kind of scared of the potential of not getting those big one-off paychecks from clients. And three, I've attempted to do the managed services thing. My clients aren't biting, or maybe I'm not selling it quite well enough, or maybe I'm just not sure if it's for me at this point now after trying to pitch it. And how do I go about making this a successful transition? And that's kind of, I think, what we're shooting for is you're in one of those three camps. You're either trying to find out more information, or you're trying to figure out how to make this work for you. So,
yes. So with that said, attendees, you guys can raise your hands. Do any of you feel like you are struggling? You're actually trying to do MSP, but you're struggling to get people to actually buy it. Maybe you feel like your sales process isn't going the way you want it to. Feel free to hit the raise hand button. Okay, we got a couple people there. And so right now people are raising their hands if they feel like they're trying to do managed services, but it's just not working, and it's, customers aren't biting. Now, what about, I went ahead and lowered all the hands. Answer this. Are you confused on managed services? You're not really sure if that is where your company direction should be. Well, this is promising. Nobody's raised their hand. So it seems as though everyone kind of feels like I know I need to go towards managed services. So then I think what's the other one? They know that they need to do this, but don't know where to begin. Johnny, you look like you want to say something.
Why do you think you want to be a managed services provider as opposed to a break fix?
Well, I know why I did.
Why is that?
I like monthly recurring revenue.
Okay.
I also like not having to do, I don't like having to put out fires all day, every day. You know, it's nice to be able to walk into the office and, you know, see a list of things like, oh, look at all these potential issues that may someday cause a problem. If I fix them now, nothing will go wrong. You know, that's a nice feeling for me because I don't like working with just constant stress. And I feel like as a break fix provider, that's what I was doing, was just constant stress.
I have something to add to that.
Please.
You can also end up getting more work in. We all know projects turn up by actually knowing what they do, getting more of a rapport with the customer, and finding actually that sometimes you can help more than what you expected.
Oh, good. The panelists figured out how to raise their hands. I still don't know how.
I don't know how.
Participants menu there, Ben.
I know. But I do have something to add, though, at the same time. Because of the fact that I do both home and business, it's actually been amazing to me on that even some home users are willing to actually have something that is consistently taking care of their systems. And that's what I've been placing the value on, is that it's properly being taken care of versus just waiting until it breaks and then probably putting it off for another 6 months before you pull your hair out.
Good. Todd.
Yeah, I think the big aspect from a business perspective of why I think MRR makes a lot more sense is cash flow. Cash flow is king in any business, and especially in this business, you don't want variable cash flow, especially if you're trying to grow your team. So if you're a solopreneur and it's just you and maybe a couple of contractors, then you can cover the costs pretty directly. But if you want to grow your business, you need to be able to service more clients in a variable fashion. And if you go out and hire 4 staff and then all of a sudden you have a really slow couple of months and you're on the hook for paying those salary, that can be a pretty significant stress for you. So if you have MRR and you know that the MRR monthly covers your operating costs and then everything else becomes the margin on top, that's a much, much more scalable way to build your business. And you can predictably add staff as you're adding additional clients. So, and it won't get you sort of behind the 8 ball if all of a sudden business slows down.
Yep. That's exactly it, man. Cash flow is king. But I'm just reading.
Sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
No. I was just going to read through some of the questions.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So I see Anthony asked, I recently decided to switch from break fix to managed services, and he's worked on many things. He's got a contract. He's glanced at Carl Palachuk's ebook. And if you guys are interested in diving into managed services, I really did enjoy Carl's book. I believe it's called Managed Services in a Month. It's definitely a great place to start. He came up with 3-level pricing, etc. What Anthony has left that he wishes he could get done ASAP is currently I only do desktop PC support. I will do monitoring with my RMM for all. How do I hire people to take care of on-site or remote support for stuff I cannot do? Servers, Macs, etc. What is your suggestion? So let's tackle that one first.
I could tackle that one. I'll start with at least anyway.
I know Shiva said he wanted to tackle that one, so let's have Shiva go first, and then I'll let you follow up.
No, James, you go ahead, then I'll take it after, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The one thing that I would say straight away is there are two particular websites that I would recommend looking at. One of them is Freelancer, and the other is Upwork. Now, both of which have technicians across the board, across multiple different countries, who provide that little extra work. And then there is another part to it, and that's there are quite a few consultants out there that are willing to assist in getting those processes set up, or in a nutshell, take care of some of the server and math, as you quite rightly said. Both of those I would highly recommend sort of looking at. There are a lot of techies out there that know a lot of contract workers who would jump for the opportunity to work with someone like yourself. I've just noticed in the chat, it can be hit and miss for Freelancer and for Upwork. I will definitely agree with that one. But when you do find a couple of decent technicians, they will be good for you for as long as you keep working and until you need them to move on. They are a great resource and a great tool to be able to utilize in your business. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And Shiva?
If I took the literal meaning of your question, I would say you're not ready to be an MSP. You should probably go work for someone. If you can't handle the work to be done, why are you charging people for it? Go get a job at an MSP, learn it, breathe it, eat it, bleed for it. If and when the time comes, then try opening your MSP. Because right now, you're just going to be floundering in the water, not being able to do anything. That's just my 2 cents.
Harsh words. However, there is unfortunately a bit of truth in that. Only for the point that it's hard to take. I guess it's kind of hard to take someone seriously as a vendor. You know, if I were hiring an IT company and the owner doesn't know how to do what I think are basics of, maintaining my server and that type of stuff, I get it. It's a good thing to.
Well, I think, sorry if I may, it's not that an owner needs to know everything. Granted, I don't know everything. But, if you're the owner and you don't have the technical know-how, you should have the capital to pay people to do the tech work for you, but you should at least be competent enough to run your business. It seems like here you're starting from less than zero. So you're probably in a position where you should work for someone, get the experience, see what happens in the real world, and not rely on a book by a guy who says, hey, I ran a successful MSP. Here, buy this.
I disagree with you, Johnny, actually. That's one of the few things I would say that, yes, we don't know everything. I could count down the many of different things that I didn't know last week and do now. And same for years ago. The one thing I would say is that servers are going to be a primary part to your MSP world. It is something that comes up regularly. Dive on, get Hyper-V or VMware ESXi in your house and chuck on Server 2016, Server 2012, and have a go. Learn from watching a few YouTube videos and stuff like that. That I would say 100%, if you're going to go MSP, that's what you need to do. You need to be trying stuff out and failing. That is a primary way of being able to sing. And I'm sure Todd will agree that sometimes failure actually is a good thing. That, sometimes it just happens. And I'm sure everybody in the room has failed at least once and learned something from it.
And I wouldn't say you should strive to fail, but there's no shame in failing as long as you're learning something from it.
I got one
The
thing
only
to add.
element the only element I would add in failing, I am a fan of failing as long as the risk is managed. So one of my favorite expressions is constantly falling forward, right? So even if you're falling down, you're still moving forward. But you're not falling from 20 feet and injuring yourself is probably the distinction in that. Just to sort of cap on this as well is I think there's some room for you to be a solopreneur and grow a T&M business if you want to structure on an MRR model. I would say the only aspects of this that you need to contain are what do you actually work on? So you don't go out and collect whatever clients are willing to pay you. You need to be very particular about what you take on, what you actually support, and look for those clients in particular. Because if you're technical to begin with, then you probably know more than most people out there. Like this is the thing that you hear from everybody when you're doing desktop support is, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know anything about computers. And my response back in the day was always, that's fine, that's what gives us jobs, right? So you'll always know a little more than somebody. I think there's, I would probably agree with Shiva that there's potential for going back and learning more and gaining more experience before you go independent. But you can be independent and figure out what you can work on, where your value lies. Just make sure you're very particular about what work you take on and that you're actually able to service it.
I have something to add to this, Steve. Sorry. One thing I've done, because I know that, for example, I don't really do server work myself at all. I've been more on the desktop support side. And due to networking in my local area, I've basically managed to get some relationships going with other IT professionals, but whether they do managed or not. So I actually have people I can call for when those times come up where it's like, this is not my thing. And I don't really tell the client that. I say, I have someone that can help us out with this, and let it go ahead and take off.
I think one of the big things that people confuse with managed services providing is that you are providing a full encompassing service. You're not providing just basic remote support. And I've seen a lot of guys in my area say, oh, we're providing managed services. Okay, what are you doing? We're providing antivirus and BombGuard. But that's not managing anything. That's just providing an antivirus solution and remote support. How much are you charging for this? $50 a month. What? A managed services should be, okay, you are making use of a tool, your RMM platform, to collect all of the event logs, to collect the data that this computer is generating over the course of its lifetime, saying, what is going on with this computer on a day-to-day basis? Why are these services stopping? Why is this going on? Are the backups being performed? Is the antivirus actually doing its job? And a lot of times, people that want to switch from a break-fix model to a managed services model don't grasp the actual full comprehension of what it is to actually be a managed provider. And so they short the actual, I guess, designation of managed into more like remote support, which then cheapens the entire business model, and it cheapens your model. And so you end up with issues where, well, one of my previous clients, well, we had a managed services provider. They were only charging us $45 a month, and we didn't like them. So we did some break fix stuff with you for a little bit. And now you're offering us this managed services thing that's $125 a user a month. That doesn't make any sense. And
I'll say this, Andy, that
yeah.
I actually ran into a company that I said, hey, happy to be your IT guy if you're not happy with the one you got. And they had nothing but great things to say about their IT guy. He was there in sweatpants and flip-flops. Yep. No joke. It was January, guys, in Ohio. This man is wearing flip-flops to his customer in Ohio in January.
There.
So and sweatpants. Like, jeans, okay, jeans, I'm cool with jeans. It may have been.
Yeah.
So then I I say, hey, what RMM tool are you using? So, oh yeah, I got LogMeIn.
Yeah.
What? No, that's your remote access. What RMM tool are you using? Well, I got LogMeIn. It does everything I need to do. And I said, okay, so if you need to make a change across, all 26 of the computers here at this office, can you just push a button and log me in and it just happens? He's like, well, no, I just remotely connect to each one of them and do that. And I said, so, okay, so they're paying you to do that work then, right? He's like, yeah, I get paid my standard hourly rate. And I said, okay, standard hourly rate. When are you doing this work? Well, I do it after hours because I don't want to take their systems down or anything like that. I'm like, okay, so you realize this is something that could be scripted in PowerShell, right? He's like, what's that? And like this conversation, it just made me cringe more and more as I asked these questions. So I said to him, okay, so here's what I do. I have this tool I use, and this isn't my tool's better than yours. Okay, guys, I want to preface that and get that over with. I don't care if you're using. I'm not even going to say it. I don't care. Okay, so I said, here's what I use. I use Kaseya. I've got the ability to, use all these different PowerShell commands, turn it into a script, and then push that out to dozens, hundreds, thousands of endpoints all at once. And it fixes the issue. I'm not remotely controlling the endpoint for the end user. And for this specific issue, I don't even need to like reboot or take anything down. Like it's just fixed. And he's like, wow, you can do all that? That sounds hard. I'm like, dude, you're just changing the time zone, man. Like he's expecting like 800 lines of code to do all this. I'm like, dude, it's like 2 PowerShell commands or whatever. I mean, it wasn't changing the time zone. I don't want to say what it was because then it would be very revealing who it was. But it was something mundane, okay? So I just want you guys to keep in mind, like, if you want to do managed services, my recommendation is you got to do them right, okay? And that does mean investing in some products for you to be able to do your job efficiently. But that investment's going to pay off because, it's going to suck. You're going to spend like $500,000, whatever a month on some tools. And right now you don't have any clients to justify that expense because you're all break fix. But if you start, onboarding 1 or 2 of your break fix clients, even if you give them an introductory rate, say, hey, look, you're going to be my first client on my new system. There may be some kinks to work out, however you want to pitch this. And Todd, you might have a different methodology. I'll let you tell me everything I'm saying wrong in just a minute. But pitch it to some clients, give them a lower price since you don't know what you're doing, right? There's going to be that learning curve, but once you get it figured out, heck, grandfather them into that lower price because they just saved your bacon, right? Because now you can go at new clients and be the price that you think you should be, the price you think you deserve, right? Not that lower price that you gave to the 1 or 2 guys that you onboarded first. But you got to set the RMM tool up right. I mean, just having one doesn't do anything for you. You actually have to set up all the monitors, all the automated remediation, all the automated things like, perfect example, LabTech. 1, 2, 3 of you guys, I believe, are ConnectWise customers. LabTech can automatically create the ticket in ConnectWise, add the time based on however you scripted it to do so, close the ticket, and now it's showing actual value to your end users, to your clients, where they're able to see, oh, look, he did 7 hours of remediation this month. Great. I don't mind giving him that $3,000 check.
What I'd also say as well, it's not just about the tools. And I think everyone would agree with me on this one. It's not just about what you have. It's how you present it. It's how you use your documentation, how you deliver it to the customer, even when picking up the phone, for example, and giving them the best service. If you provide ticketing support, go unlimited. I know that sounds completely insane, but trust me, the idea being that the customer can then send a ticket in for free. They're not having to worry about the fact that they send in 1,000 tickets a month. They can do that, and they can do that well. And I mean, I'm seeing obviously a lot of questions, and one of them being what you charge for home MSP and your business MSP in the state that you're in. Ben, actually, you could probably add some to this table as well. But
Yes.
for me, I do consultancy work. So I did things very differently beforehand. When I was moving to MSP, it was a whole different ballgame, massively different. And I actually was afraid in some cases of what I'd have to do. But the one thing that I learned very quickly was my documentation was my lifeline. And I've made mistakes with my documentation that I've had to learn from. And I've taken quite a big chunk out of my sort of profits because of my documentation not being great. So I learned that very quickly, is that if you ever do decide to go MSP, get a solicitor, get a lawyer, and get your documentation 100% bulletproof, because you will need that. You will fall onto it quickly. But Ben, yeah.
Yeah, I can chime in on the home stuff. I did answer one part already just because it was interesting. But to clarify, I work with homes and home-based businesses as well. I'm in New Hampshire, and they are a bit on the penny pinching side, but I have some that are paying as little as $10 a month, and it's because I'm on Kaseya with actually same way with Steve got on. I was able to basically make it that way I can not charge too much, still make some money, but if they call for support, there's still a charge for that. It's not all included. Most places that are small like that don't generally want to pay for that. So I'm already there. I'm already making some money from them, and when they take up my time, I get more money. So it does work out. And sometimes on the small business side, they can also be a little bit on the penny pinching side. But yeah, homes surprisingly do go for it. I have a number of senior citizens that are paying up to $25 a month, depending on what they wanted and whatever sales running at the time. I just grandfather them in. And on the contrary to some that find that they get called a lot, I almost never hear from most of my clients. It just works. I just check in with them occasionally, and they're like, yeah, things are fine. So it works.
Yeah, I got to admit. Sorry, I was going to say I'd have the same thing. So, but anyway, Todd.
I'll throw some thoughts in here just around the distinction between T&M and the agreement-based clients. I'll do a quick share here on this picture. Is that working? Okay, so this to me kind of highlights what the definition of what we're talking about is. Do you have an agreement? Yes or no? This largely defines whether or not you have a client or a customer. A customer is transactional. They pay you for services. A client has a relationship that is high value, right? Do not compete on price if you're doing agreements. It is a race to the bottom, and it's not the industry that you're in. If you're servicing clients on a transactional basis, you can compete a bit more on price because the value of your time is all that you're offset on. The risk is that you have a ceiling on how much money you can make, and that's number of hours that you can provide service, right? This is the beauty of moving to an agreement, is that the T&M work is incentivized for things to be broken so that you can do work, right? This is what you explain to the client, is that guy is willing to pay on an hourly basis because the more issues that they have, then the more service that they get, more money that they make, okay? An agreement-based contract incentivizes that you actually fix their infrastructure, because the less noise that comes from the environment is better for you. It's more profitable. The second trick becomes, what do you do with that additional time if you've eliminated the noise? Then you actually start to focus on the high value stuff, the business consulting, tech roadmap, development of the what they're actually utilizing technology for in their infrastructure. That's where you start to become more of a business solution provider, providing a lot more high value. You have to get out of the technical space, especially in the SMB. Unless you're dealing with an IT manager as your point of contact within a client, they do not care and they do not understand technology. If you try to talk tech to them and explain to them why your stack is better than the other guy down the street, you're going to confuse them and they won't listen, because it makes them feel stupid, right? No one wants to feel like they don't know what you're talking about in a conversation. So get out of the technical talk. Talk about the value that you're going to provide to them on an ongoing agreement basis, and that's how you can win a client from a customer.
Oh yeah.
Agreed, 100%. In fact, I love that document.
I think what Todd just said would apply to Anthony's question in the Q&A. For the cheap clients, get cheap out of your vocabulary. If that's what they want, you're not the person for them if you're an MSP.
Yep.
Stick with the break.
Yeah, agreed. The other part I was going to add, thanks for that, Shiva, the agreements are tough to do for under $100 per endpoint, right? Regardless of how you define it. But you'll see in certain markets, there's guys that are, I think Andy alluded to this, guys that are pitching $50 per endpoint and sometimes lower. I've seen 75 as average for kind of the smaller clients under 10 seats. That can be a bit of a problem. But if you're doing true managed services, it's really difficult to do well for under 100. And that's what you can maybe start to expose if people want to fight with you on price. But don't chase it. If a person is not interested in paying the value that you provide, it's up to you to define that value and make sure that you're selling on that so that the person understands it. But if they're only looking for the cheapest solution, they're not going to be a good client. They might be an okay customer, but they're not a good client.
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit to that, and actually it was a question. And one of it was, what are your thoughts on those clients who are apprehensive or timid on MSP and want to go with ad hoc support? Well, actually, I know somebody in particular who had a call, and their client was adamant that they wanted to go break fix, ad hoc, however you want to call it. By the end of the call, they were MSP. And obviously I won't reference to the sort of thing, but it was fantastic. And just listening to how it was done, it proved that the value alone, the customer was adamant that they didn't want to do that. But then walking away knowing that they wanted to be MSP was the right thing for them and right thing for their business. So in all honesty, it doesn't matter how adamant they are wanting to not be an MSP customer. Trust me, there is always a way to sell it. The other part of the question was, obviously, what do you suggest in this situation? In all honesty, find that point, whether it's something that they need, something that they want. Their staff might actually be saying that they're not getting their tickets answered that quickly. Give them something that you know is like the pot of gold, the lottery ticket that wins every time. Those sort of things will definitely help you out. But at the same time, make sure that you keep yourself within a budget. Keep yourself in mind that you've got to make money as well. So doing your research will help you tremendously in this. I don't know if that quite answers all of your question. The whole idea of prepaid support, I think Johnny would answer that better.
My version of break fix was they pay a retainer. We do work, we bill off the retainer. When there's X percentage of the retainer left, we bill for more money, and that's just how it goes. What I billed an hour was irrelevant, but anything you do is processes and procedures. I am not one of those people that thinks MSP makes you any more or less money than break fix. I think it smooths out the income curve and it becomes budgetable finance. But yeah, just have your processes and procedures in place for whatever you want to do. And you should do well.
Hey, real quick, for everyone that's here watching on Zoom, I have a poll that I just put out. Less than half of you have answered. I think if you answer, we'll be able to better tailor our answers to you guys. Just because we're trying to figure out, who our audience actually is. And I see, like, for example, 60% of the people that have answered do define managed services as having an RMM, a PSA, a security stack, Office 365, spam filtering, backup. So there's tons of value there. And I didn't even get into the, is it all you can eat? Is it 24/7? Our projects include, that stuff. I didn't even want to go there, but I feel like the fact that you guys are answering these, and we're going to start getting some better insights as to who our audience is right now.
If I can answer Dom's question here, I know it's directed to Ben, but I think you're looking at it incorrectly. There's no such thing as a freebie. It's either included in your agreement or not.
I think what Dom is asking is for break fix.
Oh, I thought this was the break fix to MSP chat. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. So if it's them asking, do you charge for break fix? In my opinion, if I have to answer you, it's billable. If it's a question that is part of managed services, I think it's also difficult. So Dom is really focused on residential MSP. And I think Ben is probably going to be the only one here that's able to answer those types of questions, because I don't want to touch residential with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Kind of agree on that one.
I don't want to touch residential with your 10-foot pole.
Exactly.
Wow.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was about to say, since it was directed at me anyway, and I took a bit to find the question. Do I charge for every single call? Most of the time, yes, unless it takes me literally a minute and a half, and then I don't care. Or just like a quick email with a quick, sentence, and I'm done. That's fine. But beyond that, $25 minimum.
Oh. I'm going to try and say your last name, man. Anthony Santa Catarina?
Santa Catarina. I got it.
Catarina. Close enough, right? How large are most of your teams? What is your endpoint size? Was there a particular growth rate you found, or was it based upon the clients you picked up and then realized you needed additional help? For me, I'm a single man person. I'm a one-man wrecking ball. Currently, I support about 300 desktops across 8 companies. I have gotten rid of 3 clients that I previously dealt with because they would not convert to a managed services platform effectively. They just didn't feel that it was worth their money. So I got rid of them. Was a particular growth rate I found. Not necessarily a growth rate. It's primarily, most of the clients I found were, actually all of my clients were previous break fix, except for one. They were all previous break fix, meaning I did not have a remote anything in place. I would go to their site, I would do work, I would bill them every month based on their work. They were continuous clients, but they were not, there was no, I don't know how you put it. There was no agreement in place, meaning they didn't sign any papers saying they would pay me, this time or this much every hour. It was just a verbal agreement, and that was it. And effectively, which I think is what we're going to end up getting to here, is what were the processes involved in getting and converting that person to a managed services platform, I guess is the best way of saying it. You know, what did I have to set up on my end to get to where I felt that I could automate the hell out of everything? And I think that is the true key and goal of any managed services provider, is to automate. You should be able to see things coming up, say, and for your platform to say, hey, there is a problem here. Okay, let's try and run some things first before we ever notify me, the head guy, and say there's issues here. So I'd say growth rate. My growth rate, it's kind of hard to answer that one, because it's a matter of, one, I pivoted my business away from break fix. I said, I am not going out to in people's houses anymore. I'm not going to people's businesses anymore. And if I am charging an arm and a leg to do so. I'm not charging the cheap Best Buy rate, for a Geek Squad guy to come out there. I'm charging $175 an hour if I have to go anywhere on site that is not on a managed contract. Because I want to disincentivize break fix clients from calling me on a regular basis. I want them on my managed platform. I want them to have my firewalls. I want them to have my switches, and I want to have everything at their site as I don't know. Basically, I want complete continuity across all my clients. I want the same process. I want the same procedures across all of them, even though it's going to be tailored for them, because you have to tailor it for them. Just get over the fact, you personally have to get over the fact that you're selling something that's going to be custom tailored to them, even though it's not going to be 100% custom. It's 95% of what you sell them is going to be your standard platform, your standardization. So, yes, Cliff, I love when Geek Squad goes somewhere because we end up with more billable work.
I see Todd's got his hand raised.
Yeah.
And he was actually bouncing on his seat earlier. He was like the nerd in class, like, ooh, big
no, I don't think so. Yeah, just around the standardization. Andy makes a really good point about standardization is going to be your superpower as an MSP. It makes it a hell of a lot easier to manage and to make the turnaround time on a ticket lower. So on average, like, you want to aim towards like 1 to 1.5 hours per ticket. And that will indicate that you have a good level of standardization, and that probably it's documented as well, so that someone can kind of pick up a ticket. They know the system. They don't have to figure out what type of firewall it is and where those settings are. All of those things have to be figured out on the fly. So standardization is huge. And just as an example, like to give you guys some context in this, like size of teams and revenue they can hold. I have a good friend of mine that they built a 3-person, it was 2 up until they hit about $1 million in recurrent revenue. And that is a big number to hold under 2 people essentially. So it's very scalable if you're picky about how you do it. If you want to be less picky and pick up more clients, you just have to recognize the lack of standardization is going to require more effort, right? So a lot of this is a decision of what kind of business do you want to build. Like you can build a solopreneur, or you and a couple of other contractors, and be very profitable doing the work that you do in the hours that you commit. Or you can build a stack of clients that value the service that you provide. They feel like you're the guy that can do absolutely everything for their business, and they don't question the bills. And it's really a definition of what road you want to take, and therefore how you set out the business as an after the fact, right? So be really conscious about what you're actually trying to build your business to look like.
And following up there, Jason and then Dom, at what point was I able to pivot away from break fix? Effectively, I focused hard on my larger clients. We're talking roughly 30 users each between my first 2 that I converted. And yes, for them, it was I won't say it was a drastic price increase, but it was roughly a 30% price increase per month. Now with that, and this kind of ties in with Dom, is I provide my network hardware as a service. So yes, there are legacy clients. All new clients going forward are going to effectively get the higher rate. They're not getting the old, okay, you've been kind of drafted in. But effectively, my older clients, they do have a reduced monthly rate per user, but it is not that far off from what I'm currently charging for new clients. So once I got my first two, that secured one, that helped me secure the funds that I needed and the stability that I needed to go out and purchase all that stuff. It also gave me the leeway and the time to build out my platform, and it gave me the money availability to build out my platform the way that I wanted it. I waited another 6 months before I went out and sold managed services again. And the reason for that is because I did not want to deal with a platform that was, yes, I had worked on it. Yes, I had developed it, but it was not complete. It was not whole, and it was not sound, and it was not easily scalable. And once you get your platform to a point where it can be easily scaled, you can add on a client and everything, all your stuff gets installed all at once, all the fun things happen, then yeah, once that occurs, then it's very, very easy to add on new clients and actually bill properly for. And so for them, my two initial clients, they were not at my full rate because yes, they understood, for the first year, we're going to be somewhat guinea pigs. And I spoke with them. I was open with them about that. I was not, I want to pivot my business. I want to provide you better services. But in order to do so, this is what's going to have to happen. And they were okay with that. So it takes a little bit, and you have to have some good trust, and the companies you work with have to trust you, which I hope that's kind of part of being a computer IT guy is trust. So, and Dom, do you lease network as a service, or a cost is up front because of the initial cost of switching to MSP plus network as a service could be a slight turnoff even for much larger comps? You could do that. You could work with somebody. Yep. As Johnny's saying, everything as a service. And effectively, I built in that price into my per user cost. So they don't see it as a separate cost. And what that means is everything as a service. So when you build it in to everything, everything is built into that one user cost. Okay, well, that breaks it down quite a bit easier. Your first month, okay, you may lose a little bit, but your next month you're making money. And that's the way, cash flow. As Todd was saying, it's all about cash flow. Okay, you may lose money the first 2 months because you just bought $10,000 worth of hardware, but month 3 through 8, 10, 20, 36 months out should all be profitable. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know if any of these other guys do that, but
I'd actually like to add on that, and actually it's on a question as well. And this was from Ryan, and it says, the problem is that I don't want to take on an MSP client unless they agree to an IT infrastructure upgrade that I'd be willing to support. The idea here is an upgrade over time and then convert to MSP. Right off the bat, I'd say no. Do not take them on and upgrade them and then move them to MSP, because I can tell you right now, they will not sign the contract. They'll then go somewhere else if they don't like you, and you spent all that time and effort getting them all set up for them to then walk away. Do it as a project. Do it as the fact that you can show them the reasons why they need an upgrade. If you're just going in there and saying, you need an upgrade because I don't like your equipment, that's not going to work. If you say to them, hey, this is the infrastructure we've got because you get better security, your Wi-Fi is improved massively, or just generally speaking, that they are more profitable because the equipment is better, that will make the massive differences. Things like firewalls are easy sells if you know how to do it. It's not about fear-mongering, it's more on the fact of preventing stuff that can occur. And I'm sure Andy will agree with me on that one, because we've spoken about firewalls more than one occasion, about how much we love them because it saves so much time and hassle in the long run. So that and
Ryan,
virtualization.
virtualize everything. But one of the other things is that you don't want to take on an MSP client unless they agree to an IT infrastructure upgrade. Go and look at their switches. A lot of times, not so much the netgears and things like that, but a lot of times the higher end hardware will actually have manufacturing dates on them. It's a very easy sell when you say your switch is 8 years old. We probably want to replace it before it causes a massive outage. And that is a very easy sell. And then you can go on, well, okay, but your switch isn't managed. Okay, do we want to separate out these things? Do we want to separate the administration network from the end users? Do you want to separate out the accounting teams and their computers from the regular sales teams? You could get as crazy as you wanted to with it, but effectively go and look at the hardware. If it doesn't look old, is there dust collected on it through, it's 6 inches deep? That's, there's a lot of things there. It's very easy to sell them if the hardware looks old. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but a physical peek can go a long way.
Do you know what? I agree with Andy on that one, is that generally speaking, whether or not it's well looked after by just the general condition of it and how old it is. So really, it shouldn't be an easy sell. So the idea being that you don't want to take on because of IT infrastructure. I know a lot of people who have signed MSP contracts and wish they hadn't, because of the amount of stuff that they have to then go and do to get everything up to a decent standard. Things like with a server 2003 still being in businesses that are still functioning as normal. That stuff, even Microsoft stopped supporting years ago. So when you're having to say, oh, well, look, these are old, we need to start upgrading, that's because you care enough to say, we want to get this stuff up to a good standard. If you didn't care, you would walk straight in and say, yeah, fine, we'll support it at this, but it's going to cost you a hell of a lot extra. So generally speaking, you should be fine in going in and doing it as a project or doing it as part of your onboarding. Now, onboarding, obviously, like I say, most MSPs do have an onboarding schedule. I'm sure Todd would have a lot to say about proper onboarding and the best practices for it, but I say the same thing always. Treat it as a consultancy, not as a sale. Treat it so that you're walking in there and saying, right, what is the best solution for the company? Then you build them afterwards. You build them because it's a cost point of view, but you're providing them the best service. Look at it as, right, we're putting in decent Sophos UTMs, or we're putting in nice equipment that will last and stand the test of time. I mean, Todd, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, typically onboarding should be a billable engagement. This tends to only work for larger environments where there's a bit more budget to play with. So it's maybe not applicable to the larger audience here, but I'll just sort of give you a perspective. The more mature environments, providers, you're going to be either billing 30 days in advance, for onboarding. So the previous provider, if they have one, is still doing support, and you're already billing them doing an onboarding. That can often be used as a negotiation point in the sale. So either they're paying for onboarding or they're paying for an assessment, right? So larger, more mature providers, you pay for both an assessment of the environment and you also pay for onboarding. So just to give you a sense of what this looks like further down the road. But for the smaller providers, I would at least suggest use one or the other. If you can get them to commit to doing certain projects after they've done an assessment, then you can bring them on and roll those projects through, like basically that they commit to doing X, Y, and Z within the first 3 months. That can sometimes work, but all of it is based on the risk. And I think you guys nailed it, that a good tech can walk into their server closet, and if it's just a jungle in there, and there's water dripping on some racks, and there's cables everywhere, and there's panels ripped out of an old white box server, then yeah, there's a lot of work to do. You don't want to take that on and try to fix it, because you're going to be on the hook for doing that yourself, right? So
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Generally speaking, I've been into a few server cabinets that I wished I'd never stepped foot in and ran as quickly as I could, but unfortunately, that's just the way the world works. The other question I have, which actually would be quite fitting as well to add on to this, is the reason we are converting to MSP is to ultimately be more profitable. How Johnny just suggested that break fix and MSP are the same financially. Does everybody agree with this? And have you found MSP to be more profitable than break fix? I can comfortably turn around and say MSP is definitely more profitable than break fix.
I will just say this. I think Johnny is like the exception to the rule when it comes to break fix being profitable, because I think he charges something ridiculous like $300 an hour to these companies.
So here's the interesting thing, right? If we're talking about profitability, we're talking about margin. So if you're a bottom of the barrel guy charging $35 an hour, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going out of business. If you price yourself well in relation to what your expenditure is, then profitability is profitability.
There's also something to look at too when it comes to the break fix world. No matter what you're really charging, look at what the costs are to, say, if you're doing on-site work, getting to the client, maintenance in the car, truck, whatever you're using. Just all the costs involved with trying to break fix on top of the labor costs that you're charging the client. And I can tell you that part-wise, depending on what the parts are, there's not much of a markup there because no one would actually go. So they'll just go over to Best Buy and grab a part or whatever. So having on managed, that monthly recurring revenue, since the costs are reasonable enough, it works out much better.
So here's something that I think maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, is we should probably address the conversion from a break fix shop to a managed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is kind of what this is all about.
I would hope so. And one thing I'd like to say is, how many of you have actually planned for that transition? How many of, not on the panel here, but whoever's listening, do you guys have processes and procedures for your onboarding, or is it let's just see what we can do when the time comes? Have you processed that out?
Raise your hands, attendees. Do you have processes and procedures written out? Yes, I raise my hand because I have this stuff already written out.
And how detailed is it? Because I'd like to share something with you, if you guys don't mind.
Go for
it. We got up to 10, but now we're just down to 6.
So this is my basic project plan in ConnectWise for when we onboard a client. And this is for a non-complicated client. As you can tell, what are we budgeting here? 184 hours.
It's a lot of hours.
I mean, realistically, we bang that out in 60, give or take, for the average client who's not running Server 2003.
Yeah.
I think one of the foundational elements you need in going from break fix to managed is the right tools and really get your processes and procedures down. And more so, really figure out what your costing is and decide on your margin. If you don't do any of those, it doesn't matter what books you read, who you listen to, whether you want to listen to myself, Andy, Todd, James, Ben, Steve, or anyone on this panel. You really need to reflect inward and decide if you're ready for the MSP jump.
Yes. So I've got something I want to say on that, and then there's actually a question on YouTube I'd like for us to look at, and it looks like Todd has a response to that as well. Okay, so in regard to having procedures, okay, so I think we're holding firm at 6. 6 people have, out of the 40 attending, 6 people have processes and procedures in place for things like onboarding. So my recommendation is find yourself some onboarding procedures. if you don't know where to look, I'll give you a hint. As a member of MSP Webinars, I give you an onboarding procedure document. I also give you a document for doing the Office migration, which is part of the onboarding procedure. I also give you documentation for other things and how to do things in Kaseya and Autotask and that type of stuff. So if you're looking for some starter documents, it's there. There's a gentleman named Ernest. Ernest's documents are definitely much more involved. He's got I think it's like a 90-day or a 6-month onboarding. Mine is like the 1 week special. Okay. We want to get you in there and get you out of there as quickly as possible because
what
was that?
Fast and wet. Never mind.
So yeah, there's big differences in the documents. So if you'd like to get a little preview of Ernest's document, I'm sure he would be happy to show you kind of a little preview. Actually, a good preview. Look at the very first webinar that I have on YouTube, Processes and Procedures. Ernest is one of the panelists, and he shows us like a couple pages of that document. So if you want to see what that document looks like, go look at that.
If I may.
Yes.
Sorry. Anthony, you have a question here in Q&A. Never bundle, if you're delivering dial tone, never bundle it with your managed offering because you're going to run into a lot of taxation issues. Short of that, I would say put everything in.
Yep. Per user is how I do it, and I believe that's how many MSPs are starting to do it. But you can also do per device, per user plus per device, or you could just give them a flat, here's what I'm charging your company, and think of it more like a salary. That one is not as common, but it has been done. Yes, Johnard. That is a fun one. I've never seen that one before. I like that. It's like Edward and John all in one. Johnard, yes, he still sells the onboarding documents. He had a little snafu. I won't go into his personal life, but he had to do some restructuring with his business. Everything is fine on Ernest's front. His documentation, he's actually releasing version 2 here real soon. And he's got, what is it, the MSP network that he's looking to launch here soon. So he's got some fun things he's working on as well. Now, real quick, I want to answer a question I saw on YouTube. So we were talking at one point about how to configure your RMM tool, and I think we're going to skip the how to configure your RMM tool, but we are going to talk about the business process of it. Can I legitimately maintain a quality level of service with 200 or 500 endpoints for a single tech? And I think that Johnny and Andy can both answer this one. I know, Johnny, you have, I don't know how many hundreds. Andy, you have 300, and you're one dude. And I think the answer is, without a shadow of a doubt, if you are configuring your RMM tool so that way it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you, then yes, you can manage as many endpoints as you want. Andy, do you have anything to add on that?
I mean, basically, your RMM tool is there to parse the copious amount of information that is generated on these machines. And it is there to whittle down the things that actually matter. Now, you have to decide what things you actually care about, and what things you feel should be automated. And so like, okay, if I don't know, for example, some Windows service stops running, well, does that mean that you yourself have to go touch that and make it start again? No, that's doing RMM the wrong way. You have to automate that. You should have processes in your management tool to say, oh, this service stopped. Let's start it back up again. And then if it continues to fail, then I need to be notified about it. There is no reason for you to manually touch a lot of things. And it sounds weird, but you purchase and you build out these tools so that you don't have to do anything as much as possible, because that is where you're making your money as a MSP. You are investing the time and you're investing the effort into programming and automating processes and maintenance items. So if you can automate the maintenance of the computers, if you can automate the remediation of very common items, then that is something you need to do. And that's where you make your money. I mean, realistically, that's where you make your money, from a monthly perspective on the MSP side.
So just to add to that, and just to add to something, I do a lot of consultancy work, and one of the few things that I see is that when I get into RMMs, they're either configured but don't go far enough, or they're just badly configured. There are a couple out there that I have dealt with that, in particular, it all comes down to patching. And I sort of look at them and go, well, why aren't you creating a prompt to the users to keep their machines on Patch Tuesday, run through all of your businesses, and you could be done, and just the little odds and ends that come across at the end of the week. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know how to do that. And I say to them, well, there are plenty of people out there who do offer support, advice, help. Some that are techies themselves and others that are MSP owners that are more than willing to help. And I always sort of say it out there that a lot of us, we don't bite. We do like to help, certainly on the consultancy point of view. So I speak mainly for myself on this one. But I was able to help one customer get their 250 endpoints who all have patches down to 23 in 3 days. So, if it's configured right, it can work really well.
If I could...
Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to answer Mark, but I'll go ahead after you.
I just wanted to touch on, we said the topic of the webinar is converting some of those clients to MRR. So I wanted to quickly just detail how you go about doing this. There's been some resources that have been suggested, but let's just hit this really quick. First off is you need to understand your COGS, cost of goods sold. So how much does it actually cost you to run your business, and how much would it cost to support a client? This is how you define what you're actually going to charge. That's why that $100 mark kind of makes sense, because you're going to include things like PSA, RMM, AV, some other type of security. And then beyond that, there's some variables that you can put in there and increase the all-in seat price. So whatever you're paying for that endpoint by user, usually. Okay, so figure out your COGS, and there's some spreadsheets. I think Steve's MSP webinar stuff has some of the links to that stuff where you can kind of noodle around with these spreadsheets and figure out what your costs are and what you should be charging. So figure that out first, then test it with a couple of the clients that you have. Assume that the clients that you have are new clients that you're going to be selling. So run them through this calculator, figure out how much you're going to be charging them on a monthly basis, compare that to what they've been paying on average over the past, say, 4 to 6 months, right? If it looks like it's the same and 20%, you're probably in the right category. Now, there's a couple of qualifiers to this, that agreements under $1,000, you may not want to chase after. certainly in the early term, they're going to be tougher to convert. And the cost to support those contracts tends to get quickly underwater. So if you get swamped by a major crypto event or something like that, then you can kind of kiss the profits goodbye for a couple of months. So be cautious on any agreements that register under $1,000. And then I think Andy mentioned this. His approach was perfect. Take kind of your top clients, a couple of that you feel safe with, book some meetings, and walk them through the conversion to MSP. So you're talking about the value that you're selling to them in an ongoing engagement versus T&M. Explain to them why the cost is different. Explain to them the additional services that you're going to do, and paint the future for them, right? Don't talk about what we did, what we're doing. Talk about what this service looks like going forward. So paint that vision for them. You'll usually find that they're not going to say yes right away. If you're lucky, you'll find a couple that are like, good, this sounds awesome, I like you, let's go forward. That's a win, but your typical sales cycle in MSP contracts is going to be 2 to 3 months, and that's how long it's going to take you to kind of have these conversations until probably one lands. So don't get discouraged if everything doesn't go roses after 2 weeks, and build up a list. So you have to call the contracts or all the clients that you deal with and how you're actually going to engage them. Start basically a 100-mile march on lining those conversations up, having the conversation, get better, more comfortable with how you're actually pitching this, so that each time you go to talk to the next person, you're a little more comfortable in translating the value to them. And you just keep going down this list and talking to them. By the second or third time that you talk to them about it, you'll probably start getting some conversions. Qualifier. You should assume that at least 20% of your clients you'll have to let go, right? If you're going to convert, there's going to be some people that just don't see the value. It's not for them. They want to continue to pay T&M, and that's okay, because as you start to go out to market and sell to bring on new clients that fit better under the MSP model, that's the offset for you, right? So just really quickly, that's my thought on how you actually go and approach this. Figure out your COGS, structure your costs, figure out your contracts for the current clients, set them on a list, and start booking meetings and having that conversation so that you get comfortable with it, and eventually you'll start to convert some.
Yep. I agree, except I like a 2 to 3 week sales cycle, but I'm greedy.
That's ideal.
Get there. I think the more you vet your stack and understand its benefits, it's attainable. But to get to Mark, to answer your question, I do a 10 user minimum because I figured 10 users gives me enough margin in the first month to cover the cost of whatever the onboarding is. And I make Active Directory mandatory. ConnectWise has something called user centric, which will tell me how many users are in there. And that's how they get billed. I do not care if they are part-time, because I can't shut off their Office 365 account because they're not there the entire time. It has to stay on. So they get billed as a full-time user. If they're too small to have an Active Directory, put one in as a service. That should, with what you're charging per user with a 10 minimum, that should be able to cover it anyway. Use SPLA licensing. What is it, $8 or $9 for a pair of cores, and you'll be fine. And as far as Anthony goes, what helps to determine what to do when errors in your RMM come up? Experience, man. This is what we spoke about earlier on in the beginning. If you don't know what to do, you need to go back and learn. That's all I got.
I'll jump in here for a brief second. We're on the whole conversion process itself. Some may not go for it right away. They might actually be very skeptical about it. And what I would recommend doing is just through when they call you again for possible break fix work, show them, if you can, depending on what's going on, the value and what things may have been prevented depending on the problem. I've had a few that jump on board with the managed stuff after something goes wrong and say, oh, I might have been able to prevent that because their antivirus ran out or something. So it might be something stupid like that, but it can work. Just keep on trying and keep on presenting the value.
See here. Dom wants to know, I know some of the pitch lines to switch from break fix to MSP were mentioned. Any real life examples? It definitely varies from client to client, but how are you able to push MSP? I think we kind of went over some of that. I mean, it's basically sit down, have a good discussion, and a very frank discussion. You know, I mean, you have to approach your most likable, most, somewhat large clients and be like, and have a frank discussion with them. Just pick one or two out that you've been somewhat jovial and good with. And it's a frank, I mean, you got to have a discussion. I don't really know how else to say it, but it's a, hey buddy, I would like to change some things. Let's see here.
I'll add a little color that Andy, I think talking to them about, I think the risk of T&M, that the incentive is for you to support things that are broken. That's how you make money. Whereas if it's under agreement, the incentive is that things run really well and that there's less phone calls, right? So the support ticket volume should drop dramatically, and that you're there kind of always looking at things in the background versus just jump into the pump when things explode. The other one that I've never found a better term for insurance, but it's effectively kind of the insurance approach. It was mentioned a little earlier in chat that say you get a crypto, and yeah, sure, you're paying $200 a month on average, no big deal for break fix. And then you get a crypto event, and my team is now in there. We've spent 16 hours recovering the server and getting some files back, and we saved it for you, no big deal. But now you've got a $2,000 bill instead of a $200 bill. Versus if you'd been paying $1,200 or $1,100 a month for a managed service contract, you don't pay anything extra. It doesn't matter how many hours we spent to support you during an emergency, you're covered, right? So it's the risk mitigation and also budgeting how much you're actually spending for IT, right? That it's amazing how many people you talk to and you say, what's your IT budget? And they just kind of laugh. They have no idea. It's purely reactive spending. You're going to actually help them work with them to figure out, this is your IT budget. This is how much we spend. This is how much we need to set aside, and actually work with them on the business end of making IT a better functional support for the business as a whole. Like, those are kind of the general points. The rest of it is somewhat variable based on the client that you're dealing with, maybe what they're going to see value in. Some of these circumstances, they have the gatekeeper. So there's the secretary where everyone sends all of their support tickets to them, and she clears whether or not that's okay to go open a ticket because that's going to produce a bill. Or there's the weekend warrior, the guys that is doing part of his hours in the office supporting some of the peers in that business. Eliminate that. All of those things are unnecessary. You can just call us anytime you need and we'll support you straight away, right?
Alfred asked, what's the best way to structure a hybrid break fix MSP business? We have around 30% of our clients that will never be managed services, but are profitable regular project work. 50% of our clients have a high potential to go managed, and a few already are, and then the remainder of those, which I guess would be 20%, would just be cut. I've done that hybrid break fix and managed services for about 2 years during my major transition period. It is not easy because you have people who, it's just not easy. It's nothing excessively easy about that. And primarily because the break fix guys will always come in whenever there's you never know when an event is going to occur with a break fix client. And that is just the unknowing portion of it. Your managed clients will always get priority, at least for me, because they're paying me monthly. The break fix people, typically, they should know from the get-go, okay, I'm getting this service starting when they pick up the phone and call me. So that means my next available time is, well, it could be later this afternoon, or it could be tomorrow, or it could be the day after that. It's not easy to tell people that, hey, I can't get to you for another day or two. But at the same time, you have to be pretty strict and say, well, if you really need me today, my after hours rate is time and a half of what I normally charge, or 2 times of what I normally charge. So it's not, that transition period is never fun. It wasn't fun for me because I ended up having to do a lot of after hours stuff. It just wasn't fun, but I did make a bunch of money, and that helped me pay for one, the training for myself, and two, the tools that I currently use. So it's a win-win, I guess, but it's not fun. I hope that answered your question there, Alfred. Okay. I have 6 techs, so we're not a one-man shop. I can't just cut all the break fix and go all in as much as I would like to. Yeah, and that's, unfortunately, you do have the manpower and the labor to deal with that. So that right there helps you a lot in dealing with standard break fix people. But again, that is your lure to being a fully managed client, is you pick up the phone, they're there for you right now, versus break fix being, well, they're there for you when we can get to you. And that's a selling point. I hate to say it, but that's a selling point. You say, okay, what are you currently paying me a month? Okay. How much is this, per month? And I think one of my early kind of calculations to figure out what to charge people was, what are my costs in my current stack? What am I providing? What are the costs of that? What is my client currently paying me? And how much do I need above that? Divide that out by their users or the devices, depending on how much they currently pay you. I remember what I did now. I took the average of either 1 year or 2 years, whichever was higher, over the course, for what they paid me every month. I divided that by the number of users that they had. I then figured out what my cost per user or per device that I was going to be billing them at, and then figured out how much more I would need to get from them, and that's what I went and pitched with. So you got to make money regardless, but two, if you can break down the financials for some of those tougher clients that don't really ever want to go managed services, if you can break down the financials and say, look, you're only going to be paying this small amount more per user on a monthly basis. Great. Let's figure out how we can make this work for us. I'm not sure about if it'll be available for download. I know it'll be available for watching through YouTube there, Jason. So I'm not sure about the chat and Q&A, but definitely the video.
You can always come into the Zoom room that we're typically in to ask stuff for those that go in there as well.
Yeah. So yeah, all the videos are, yep. So Alfred, I hope that answers.
So real quick to answer that question, this right now is being streamed live to YouTube. So you'll be able to hop on to youtube.com/MSP webinars anytime and watch any parts you missed. The chat and Q&A, I don't make those available for download just because I do this for free, guys. So I, the webinar, those are available all day long, but the chat and Q&A gets a little cumbersome to try and package all that together. I have considered other tools for that, and we can have a conversation about that some other time.
Okay. And then Matthews Kiddick, how many of you are converting T&M to MSP and stop doing all T&M? I think the answer to that is you can never get rid of T&M. You can mitigate it and reduce it as much as possible. You will still have project work. Right now, I got a project out in an airport I'm doing. There will always be clients and new people that will call you and say, hey, do you guys service things? And you can give them your T&M price. I still have, the only clients I have left on T&M are ones that are basically 5 people shops that they only call me once every 3 months. So yeah, T&M break fix. Yeah.
Generally, you want a 75 to 25% split. 75% of your income should be MRR and 25 should be NRR. That's a combination of break fix if you got some. Ideally, you should try to get rid of it as much as possible. And if you should definitely be doing projects. So projects should make up 25% of your income.
Projects help you take the girlfriend out for an expensive dinner.
I spun all my break fix off to a separate company. So there's one company for manage and there's one company for break fix.
So I've got one last question before I'm going to have to disappear off myself and wrap up. But do any of you guys remember trying something that did not work for converting clients? And that was from Mark. I do definitely. And I get this question asked more and more as time goes on, and that's moving everything to the cloud. I am fed up of hearing that question. Can I move everything to the cloud? In a short answer, no, you cannot move everything to the cloud because it just does not work. No matter how many times I've tried, no matter how many times I've failed, they hear this wonderful thing called the cloud and they say that everything works great up there. And in all honesty, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Everyone seems to believe that this will be a case. And I have tried with people coming onto the managed services saying, okay, we can move certain things to the cloud. And they're like, oh, well, it's so cost effective that can I move everything up to the cloud? When you try and say no, that never goes well. That conversation never gets anywhere you want it to. So for me, yes, there have been many occasions where it has sometimes stonewalled a conversation. And I think we've all been there. We've all tried it. Yeah. So, but anyone else want to take in on?
I think to James's point, you don't always need to go to the cloud, and maybe take the time to explain that to them. If you can build a solid enough infrastructure and system on site, it could be just as good as the cloud.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Active Directory for one. Just to give everyone an example, if you don't know, Active Directory in the cloud is painful to run at the best of times.
Not if you put a domain controller in there and you do it the right way.
If you do it hybrid, that's a different kettle of fish. But moving everything to the cloud where you have no servers on site and everything works.
That's myopic at this point.
Yeah, it's a dream that we all have, but I'm pretty sure it's going to take a while.
For Ryan, sorry, James. I have 7 user accounts, but I charge them my 10 user minimum. It's not about how many employees they have. It's if they're willing to make the investment in themselves. If they're not, move on to the next one.
Anyway, I was just going to add one more thing. For those of you out there that are thinking about doing MSP, let me give you this advice. Do it. Don't look back. I made that decision at the beginning of this year, and in all honesty, it's been an uphill battle. And yes, on a few occasions, I have not slept the entire night because I've been working on getting stuff done. But the end result for me has been fantastic. And I look forward to the time ahead of what I end up getting done in the process. Go on, Johnny.
I will say, invest in your company, get the right, spend your money on getting the right paperwork and contracts done. That will protect you more than anything else in the future. And don't use Atera. Don't use Ninja.
Well, now we're bashing ornamentals.
Okay, guys.
I think, well, and one of the other things is what you don't want to do when you're trying to convert somebody is walk in there on the first time you're having a business meeting with them with numbers. Do not do that. You will have a bad day and you will get laughed out of the office.
One thing that
your first question in your first meeting with them should be, how is your business currently running? Do you like the way that your infrastructure is running? Do you like the way, what is wrong? What could be better? You should not ever ask a question about, well, what about this particular solution? Do you like these antiviruses better? They don't care.
They really don't.
Okay, they just want it to work. They want to make money. So don't Don't walk in there guns blazing. I want to convert you guys. Here's my price. Let's get out, sign this contract, get out the door. So
and don't do this pitch. I use this tool and it does all these things for me. And I use these tools and they do this, and they don't care. You know, if a plumber comes to your house to fix your toilet, do you care what flippin' wrench they're using? No.
What brand?
No. I don't. What is the result I'm going to get? Is my toilet going to flush? Are they going to remove the giant clog?
I don't know. How big of a clog is it?
Huge. My son flushed something so big.
Are we still telling people that we take care of your IT so you can focus on your business?
Duh. That's all we tell everyone, right?
I haven't told any of my clients that. Maybe that's why they're my clients.
Maybe. But my point is, they don't care what tools you use. In fact, they don't care how the watch is made. They just want to know what time it is.
There we go.
Yep.
So when you're going in there and you're selling something to a client, tell them what time it's going to be, man. That's all they want to know. Are my things going to work? Yeah, they're going to work great. Your employees are going to be so productive. I don't know why, but they will. Probably.
I should wrap up.
Yes. So, yes, Ryan, to answer your question, yes, some of us work on Macs. If you are a guy that wants to do managed services for Mac computers, Apple computers, there's a tool out there called Addigy, Addigy. I have been trying to get them on for a webinar for, I don't know, a year, and it's going to happen someday, guys. I promise that there's 100% chance that they may do it, okay? Addigy, quality product. It's kind of like lab tech, but for a Mac. So it manages more than I've ever seen any other tool manage on an Apple computer. So that said, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone. Todd, thank you. It looks like you're getting out of here. Todd, would you like to educate people about Evolved real quick?
Sure. I threw up a link if you want to join the mailing list. That's the easiest route. Otherwise, itisabusiness.com. You can hit up the website and check things out there. Always a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Todd. Let's see here. Johnny, thank you very much. I could not have done this without any of you. James, it's got to be 11:30 at night for you. Possibly 4:30 yesterday morning. I really don't know how the time difference thing works. You know, especially with the American to metric conversion. With, I don't know. I just don't know.
I can
Ben,
give you the lottery numbers if you want.
What was that?
I can give you the lottery numbers if you want.
Yes, please. It doesn't work that way, I don't think. Ben, always a pleasure. Andy, you have been, I've never seen you talk this much with so much nice things to say.
He curses a lot.
Usually Andy is just saying really mean things to me. I kid. Andy's a great guy. So with that said, all right, next week is a week off for the regular webinars. If you're a member of MSP webinars, next week is the roundtable. I believe the four of you are members, so I believe the four of you will be joining us for the roundtable, which is always a good time.
Really cool is whoever's come to the roundtable, if they want to send in some questions prior to, maybe we can prep some answers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, let's look at the roundtable as a way for you to talk about anything. If you want to talk about pricing or what RMM is better than the other, and what tool should I use,
Connect-wise. Yes.
Just send in the Zoom room.
Kaseya. Okay, so so we can do all that, or if you want to talk about a current situation you're in, whether it's a potential sale or an employee that you think you might need to fire, or anything. Okay, we've not all of us have been there, but someone in that room will have been there, and we want to help you guys. Okay,
Have the lawyer do it.
have your lawyer do it. So the week after that, I want to say it's the 19th, we have Bitdefender. And that one's going to be a very cool one. They're going to demo their product for us. They're going to show us every little nook and cranny of the gravity zone solution. So we'll be able to see not just the antivirus, but web content filtering, endpoint encryption, and more. And then the 26th is Carver. And they're going to talk about how you can use, obviously it's all about their solution, right? But they're going to talk about how you can use security solutions to differentiate yourself from the other average Joes who might just be using LogMeIn and calling themselves a managed service provider, and using that tool as the differentiator for you to get yourself more MSP clients at a higher per user income. So I look forward to all of these we have coming up. And if I didn't say it before, I said it before. If you become a member of MSP Webinars, right now I'm running the special. It's $197 a year. So you get to get more than 2 months free by signing up for a year, and you get access to the onboarding documentation that we mentioned. $500 in credit with Cloudberry Lab for backups. The IT Boost solution, instead of $50 per user, minimum 5 users, minimum 1 user. So lots and lots of value for members. Just by signing up, you can save hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So with all that said, any last words, guys?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Go do MSP.
Yes.
Go be proactive. All right, guys. Thanks again so much for coming. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe on YouTube, and you all have a great day.